This is a Macaulay Tucker Show exclusive press junket. Today we have the opportunity to interview Berto Colon, who is a Hollywood actor that you may have seen in projects like The Penguin, Orange is the New Black, Power Book 2 Ghosts, and just recently comedian Wanda Sykes' first ever drama, Undercard. In this film he plays Hector, who is a trainer, and so in this episode we sit down to learn more about this experience and what he took away from this project. The minute that you showed up on screen, I don't know why, but I could not help but smile. I really appreciated the energy that you brought to this character that you played here. Watching you in this role, something about what you did was just like, this is real. This is real life. This is not a movie that I'm watching. Interesting thing that I noticed just kind of looking at this project was specifically that this was you actually went to Puerto Rico, and I believe that you filmed there. And you've mentioned before, I think in conversations passing, that this was an internal source of pride for you as you brought your two daughters down while you were shooting. And when a project lines up like this, where you have your home and family, does it change how you show up on set, specifically this set?
Well, you know what? Absolutely. And for me, they're older now, right? They're older teens now. And, it's dad's an actor is cute. Right? When they're little, they're just, but now they're bigger. And for them to get to see the work and to get to see me work, it was really easy to sort of tell them what I did before, but now they get to see it. There's so many layers that I think that they're discovering from that. And at the same time, there's this appreciation. And for me, having that, knowing like, okay, I'm going to set, I'm staying at a hotel, life is good, I'm working, we're getting all the benefits of being together as a family, enjoying this. And on top of that, I'm actually going out and getting to do some work. So yeah, there was an ease and there was a sense of pride, and also going back to Puerto Rico, which is, obviously being Puerto Rican and having my family there. Yeah, of course, man. It's a source of motivation for me. It's why I get up every day. And the fact that they were there and that they got to experience and that they got to meet Wanda and they got to meet the cast. We all stayed in the same hotel. So they got to sort of feel a little bit of the vibes of what happens when you go shooting on location and stuff. But for me personally, I mean, I was firing in all cylinders all the time, right? Like you can look at that in many ways. I love what I do. There's just an added level of ease and sort of extra love when you get to do that. And because a lot of times, let's just say we do this away and we're away from my family. Right now, since September, I've been spending a significant amount of time away from home on another project. And it's a Yellowstone spinoff, by the way, which I guess we'll get into later. But yeah, to be on this set and to know that they were there and for like the week and a half, because we shot for about 3 weeks, my family was there for about maybe a week of it or a little longer. Yeah, it gave me that little extra edge. It gave me that little extra push, that little extra motivation. And I'm judging from the what you're saying, I think it came clean on film, and I'm very proud of that because I've worked with the Catalyst team before. This is my third or fourth project that I've done with them, and I think that it just says a lot about what I've done. That they keep on bringing me back, and then getting to work on this. I had gotten a version of this script maybe a year or so before it came to final, and what Tamika did with it was also incredible. So when I reread it and they told me what was going on, I had just finished doing The Night Agent. This came immediately after, and then I got back here and got back right into The Penguin as well. So a lot of things were lining up. I was comfortable with Miguel. I had great interactions with Wanda. I from the moment, so we had ideas, but then from the moment we got on screen together, then suddenly we were somewhere else, right? So it just, everything lined up very, very nicely for this. So I was working on a very comfortable set of circumstances.
It sounds like you had a wonderful experience on set. I'm not an actor, but I can only imagine when you begin to learn how to act and perform,
Yeah.
it can become challenging to take the script on the piece of paper and play it out. And your performance here, though some might say, it might have not been too challenging, I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Some performances for some individuals, I don't think can meet what you just had right there, because what you have there is it was was good. Again, as I said earlier, it felt real. And one thing I found very interesting about this experience was in conversations past, you've talked about how you like to look out for things, quote, out of the ordinary, unquote. And you said that the industry tries to put you found in typical roles based on how you look or sound, but you focus on going beyond what's predictable. And here you've got Wanda doing this movie. This is actually her first ever dramatic role. What I
Yeah.
found very interesting about this experience is this isn't the first time that you have worked on a project with somebody who's, are testing something out on, I believe, Power Book 2. I think it was a project.
Mary J,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's just kind of cool to see the parallels with Wanda on this project and her on that project. And I would love to ask, were you able to talk with her, kind of about this on set? And what was it like for both of you trying to kind of break out of a box, so to speak, in this, this film?
Yeah, so for us, I had when we first met, it was just kind of, I mean, Wanda's such a she is just such a pleasure, right? She's such a genuine, wholesome, and extremely funny person. And so, she's also a producer. You get to the first day, you're sort of like exchanging pleasantries and whatnot, but there's just the extra layer of um, what would you say? Familiarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Respectfully. Because obviously the time is short. You're there for a period of time. You got to work and you try to like build some kind of rapport immediately as quickly as you can. And I can tell you it was so easy. And I can say that we had ideas in that moment. We talked about more or less what's going on. And this guy's this guy's that. But then when you start working, and yes, to see her in a serious role like this, knowing what I knew of her, not personally, but from her body of work and what she's done. And I mean, it's 25, 30 years in the business and maybe even longer, obviously. And you know what? It's a source of pride and honor to be sort of like the first ones to do this with her collectively. All of us I feel the same way because this is an ensemble, right? We're all on this big ship. We're all kind of heading in the direction together, and we have our number one, we have our number two, and in this particular reason, Wanda doing this as a first time in a dramatic role. Well, there's nothing left to do other than support and bring yourself into it and bring the best version of yourself into it, and how this is within the context of what these characters have to get from one another inside of this world. That is it's very rewarding, and it's such a special thing to be working under, right? So it went where it needed to go. Wanda is super, super easy to get along with. She is extremely funny all the time, right? So when we got down in these moments, doing multiple takes or just having a day that was not exactly, easy, it was wonderful to see how she would deal with it and how we would all deal with it in between takes, but dealing with all that with such joy and kind of like a lot of energy, right? Like, she was ready to go the whole time. So it was very unique, very nice. And of course the parallels are great, right? I mean, you could always draw on something that you're familiar with from the past. And it was surprising to me, but she was familiar with my work as well. And we shared a lot of stories about a lot of different people that we know now, right? So it was very interesting. It was a lot of fun, and being in Puerto Rico on top of that, in the backdrop of Puerto Rico, was even better.
It must be so cool to be able to travel the world and be able
Yeah,
to meet
yes,
and work with so many people. I love people. That's why I like interviewing people, because I get to
awesome.
take away so many interesting things
Yes,
from conversations. And something that I notice, I was looking over your work, and from what I know about your experiences, is something that I keep seeing. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe it's just me. But playing men who have influence over people around them, but can't directly control what happens. I see a pattern, at least in your career. And Hector here is shaping this mother and son's relationship in a way from outside, as a promoter specifically,
yes.
not necessarily as family, but
The
maybe,
trainer, yes, the
yeah.
trainer,
But
yes.
is there something about caring deeply, but not being able to be right there, that draws you to these roles? Or is it something that you only see when you look back?
I probably have ideas about what these things are or what they should be because of my experience in my life, right? So I do try to bring as much as I can that's associated with this situation. I think Hector is challenged by the idea that, he creates champions. That's his role. That's what he thrives on. His street cred, his respect, his gym. That is who he is at the core. I mean, the exteriors, the gambling, personality traits, et cetera, are just a product of who he is. And the challenge here is constantly shifting for him because he was training he was training. I'm sorry. He was training Keith, but he also admired Mercy. And so the ability to go in there and kind of wreck that situation for Hector was, I guess, influence, but really as a sense of competition that Hector has. Like
Hmm.
it's win at all costs, right? And so, yes, if he could influence the fighter in such a way that he is going to then win, great. But now that the fighter, Keith goes to his mom towards the end of the movie, like the evolution of that relationship causes Hector to be more kind of like he is almost he has a higher sense of purpose now that two former people that were close to him are now against him. So there's nothing more challenging than beating someone or winning something over someone that quote unquote knows your secrets, your weapons, your attributes, has seen your best. And so there's a sense of needing to kind of elevate the game. And so that is what Hector is after in this situation. If it means creating a rift between father and daughter, yeah, that's there. But to Hector, this was already there because the history and there's this marred history that Mercy has, and he knows what Keith is doing, right? Like he's aware that. So it's like you're kind of tempting, you're kind of playing with fire, kind of like dabbling with a lot of different demons to try to get what you want. And so, yeah, it does seem in a lot of the ways the way that I've some of my body of work has been about that. I think a lot of people's body of work is you always that's the conflict on
Hmm.
screen, that's the conflict on drama. That's there's always something that you get. There's always something that you. There's always a goal, right? And there's a conflict in between you and that goal. And for him, yes, it's funny that you point that out. Very smart thing to do and pointing that out. But yeah, I think in general, that's what we're constantly trying to do. We're trying to influence someone in order to get maybe them to do what we want them to do, like make them think that they kind of wanted to do it to begin with, sort of. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in this particular case, um, he has to shift from that influence that he has over Keith, and then now with his new fighter. But the challenge is to try to get at Mercy and show Keith that maybe that move wasn't the best option. Maybe he should have stuck with me
It
with
sounds
Hector.
like you put a lot of time and effort into kind of understanding the character. And when you were explaining that to me, I was curious to ask you, but what is a common practice that you do to get into uh, character and roles authentically? I spoke with an individual many years ago who would journal. He'd write journal entries as his character. And I know
Yeah.
some individuals that don't do that, but out of pure curiosity, what have you found helpful to really understand this role that you're going to play, such as this project here?
So, you read the script a lot, you read it a bunch of times, and then after you kind of read it, and the first time you read something, I don't know if I'm going to draw a parallel here. You know that when you first, let's say when you're a kid or whatever, you drive to this theme park, let's say, and you're on your way there, and it seems like that ride is really long. But then as you do it the second, the third, or fourth, or fifth time, or even the return trip, it seems a lot shorter. Why is that? there's a level of now subconscious that takes over when you see the story, when you hear the story. And as actors, we are trained to kind of not only listen to the instincts and the perceptions and the things that pop up on that first read, but then it's kind of like maintaining an awareness to see what happens sort of by accident or sort of inherently to just reading something when maybe when your mind is not thinking of it. Um, in between what your expectations are and then kind of like when your subconscious takes over and you just like maybe just routinely reading a story that you already know, there are things that kind of pop up in that time and in that space that for me is such a, I look for that. I try to have awareness where I am, what I'm doing, right? The second or third or fourth or fifth time when I'm reading the story, little words here, little words there, things that other characters that may or may not have anything to do with me say about this other character who indirectly or directly might also be affiliated with me. So all those moments are all those kind of like these pop-ups, these little ideas and thoughts and instincts and things that pop up, they shape a lot of my performance, because I think that those are the unexpected. You know, right now we're talking. I don't know what's going to happen in the next second, but I have an idea. And like you said, you had a question that came up just from what you were hearing me say prior to that, and that moment when you said this is not related, it wasn't planned, but here I go. Like that is exactly what we do. That is exactly what we're trained to do. It doesn't always mean that it's going to translate, that it's inside of the context, that it's inside of the range of motivations or the goal, et cetera, et cetera. But from that comes different, just different improvised moments in a performance that kind of lend the performance or give the performance a lot of, it, dexterity, but also malleability, right? And just freedom. And then that's what I think we look for when we see somebody doing the work. It's that realism and that honest. Those authentic moments come from all that because they're sort of happy accidents, I call them.
I really appreciate you explaining that to me. And what you said there, what really stood out to me that I had never really thought about,
Wow,
which is
thank you. Cool.
when you read the script, you have all these different characters, but of course you have your lines. And so the fact that you read through and you perhaps look and understand what other characters are saying and what's going on to influence your performance of your character is brilliant because it
Yeah.
brings more depth. It's good to understand the full picture.
The
And
full picture. Because
that,
at the end of
yeah,
the day, that's what's living inside of this writer, these people, these collective, whether it's collective or individual, there's something living in their minds, and all those details and all that other external influences, those are kind of like, that's the kind of the tenor, the color, the tone of a story and ideas that are kind of shaping your whole. So it's because it's all one source, right? But out of that one source, all of these things kind of flying around, all these different ideas, and all this message is being delivered through an ensemble of different characters. So that paints a picture.
and this project was really such a treat, and I'm very happy that you were able to be involved with this. And again,
Thank you.
congratulations on all your success. And I guess my final question is, what can we expect from you in this year and maybe the time to come that you can share with us?
Yeah, so right now I'm super excited. I'm working on a new Yellowstone spinoff called The Dutton Ranch. I'm out in Texas, been out in Texas on and off weeks at a time since September, learning the ways of the cowboy. I'm super happy and proud to be part of this Taylor Sheridan world. And this is the Rip and Beth spinoff, which is the aftermath of what happened after the fall of the Dutton Ranch. And it's awesome. It's been an awesome experience so far. I think that people are going to be super thrilled. The project is slated for Paramount, but the other project that's already out, which is another one of the spinoffs from the same world, the same Yellowstone series. It's the Y Marshals, which is on CBS, and that's already doing great. And then there's another project that's coming this year that we shot at the same time, which is the Madison with Michelle Pfeiffer. So I'm just super happy and proud to be part of that, right? And be part of that cast. And there's a lot of opportunity inside of that world. So I'm excited to continuing to build with those people and those writers and those directors. And I'm excited for the theatrical release of Undercard because the more it's been a really interesting year. I've worked, and then there was a little bit of time that you have time from. I went from The Night Agent to Penguin. I did this film, and I actually did another film with Catalyst, Switch and Bait. That's also we're hopefully it will get a theatrical release very soon as well. But it did well in the independent circuits. But nonetheless, to have had a period of time in between working and now seeing the work being released, I was really excited, and the timing couldn't be better. There's a lot going on, right? And I think a lot of people, personally, but also for the collective, I think that this film is it's gonna be a good, it's gonna lend itself to create more work for a lot of us. I think Wanda's performance, her first dramatic role, is something that is going to turn a lot of heads. And also Tamika's writing and Tamika's directing in this work. I mean, it speaks for itself. The fact that we got this theatrical release, and believe me, with all the projects and releasing a film nowadays, releasing any of this work, it is so hard, right? We have all the streamers and whatnot, and the fact that this movie got, acquired this release and garnered the attention that it deservedly it garnered. I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful, and I'm positive that this is going to lead to bigger and better, and that people are going to enjoy it, of course. So that is what's going on right now, and yeah, I couldn't be more excited.
It sounds like a lot has been happening in your world, and I'm very happy for you because it's always good to stay busy and to learn and grow and try new things.
100%.
And I'm really excited to see all these cool projects. And this is kind of a joke, but maybe we'll see you in the new GTA because of your experience on the GTA from 2008.
That'd be amazing. I mean, that'd be great. I just got wind of something about it. I guess I'll read up more on that, but a little bit. But that was the big days and the early days of motion cap and voiceover. And ironically enough, in that series, it was my body doing all the running and jumping and whatnot, and then Luis Guzman's face.
Oh yes, and you also mentioned the challenges. Lastly, with filmmaking, it's
Yes.
quite challenging, and I wonder as a journalist if we'll see an increase in plays that you can go in person and things like that we can go and experience. Maybe we'll see you someday on a theater play somewhere. Doing something.
I mean, the early days of my career, I did a lot of stage work here in the city, a lot of off Broadway plays that I mean, it was the beginning of my career was mostly theater and only theater, to be honest. So, and I think, if I may be so bold, I think that it's the right way to learn the craft. My teacher, Robert Patterson, was someone that was one of the last living pupils who was actually in class with Sandy Meisner, and the teachings and the things that I learned with that man were it was for the theater. We learned to work and act for the theater, and that the transition to then film would be a lot easier and simpler if we learned to work truthfully from moment to moment in a room or in a stage where people are watching you, and there is no cutting, there is no stopping, there is no retake, there are no retakes, right? So from foundationally, I think that I had a very sound beginning, and I'm very proud of that. So yeah, and I mean, I've been actively auditioning for Broadway. Hasn't gone my way yet, but I know at some point it will. And I never want to not be doing stage. So I'm very hopeful that something like that will happen very soon.